I was holding my child's hand when my phone started vibrating nonstop. Not with prayers. Not with concern. Not with love. With party invitations. The machines around my daughter hummed softly, keeping time with a heart that was already preparing to stop. Her fingers were so thin they felt like they might disappear inside my palm. And somewhere far away from hospital walls and four lines and whispered goodbyes, my own blood was celebrating. That was the moment I learned something no parent should ever have to learn. Some families don't abandon you in anger. They abandon you for convenience. And they always expect forgiveness afterward. The pediatric oncology ward had a smell you never forgot: bleach, plastic, and desperation layered so thick it lived in your clothes. I had memorized it the way prisoners memorize cell walls. Every crack in the ceiling. Every flickering light. Every change in the rhythm of the machines beside my daughter's bed. Her name was Lily. She was 4 years old, and she liked purple shoes, pancakes cut into stars, and singing songs she made up halfway through. She also had stage 4 cancer that did not care about any of those things. "Mom," she whispered, her voice barely louder than the oxygen flowing beside her. "When I get better, can we go see the ducks again?" I smiled the way parents learn to smile when their hearts are breaking. "Of course," I said. "You'll feed them just like last time." She squeezed my finger, satisfied. She trusted me. Children always do. The doctors didn't. They had already explained it. Quietly, carefully, with eyes trained just slightly away from mine. The treatment wasn't working. The trials were over. There were no more options that didn't cause more pain than hope. We weren't talking about months anymore. We were talking about days. My phone buzzed again. I ignored it. Nothing mattered except the warmth of my daughter's hand, the soft rise and fall of her chest, the fragile miracle that she was still here. Then it buzzed again. And again. "Mommy," Lily said gently, like she was the adult and I was the child. "You can look. I'm not scared." I pulled out my phone. There were 19 messages. All from my sister. The first one made my stomach turn to ice. "I really need you there. This is a big moment for me." That was how it started. Not with cruelty. Not with hatred. But with something far worse. Indifference. By the time my daughter took her final breath, my family had already chosen what mattered more. And by the time they realized what that choice cost them, it was too late. The first thing you learn when your child is dying is how to listen. Not to words, but to pauses. The space between breaths. The slight hitch in the machine's rhythm. The moment when a nurse stays half a second longer than necessary at the doorway. That's how I knew something had changed before anyone said a word. Lily's hand felt lighter in mine. Not colder. Not limp. Just lighter. As if she were already loosening her grip on this world. The monitor beside her bed ticked softly. Numbers glowing green against the dim hospital lighting. I hated those numbers. I hated how much power they had. I hated how everyone pretended not to stare at them. The ceiling above us had a water stain shaped like a crooked cloud. Lily used to trace it with her finger when she still had the strength to lift her arm. "It looks like a bunny," she'd said once. Now she was too tired to look up. Her breathing was shallow. Each inhale an effort she didn't complain about. She never complained. That was the cruelest part. She endured pain with a quiet bravery that made grown adults cry in hospital bathrooms. I brushed a strand of hair away from her forehead. It was thinner than it used to be, softer too. Chemo had taken most of it, but she didn't mind. She said it made her look like a baby bird. "Mom," she whispered. I leaned closer instantly. "I'm here." Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused for a second before finding me. She smiled. The same smile she'd had since she was born. The one that always looked like she was sharing a secret with the world. "Can you sing the park song?" My throat tightened. The park song was something we'd made up years ago. It had no real lyrics. Just names of things she loved: slides, ducks, ice cream trucks, sung badly and enthusiastically. I'd sung it to her on swings, in grocery store lines, once even during a thunderstorm when she was afraid of the noise. I started softly, my voice cracking on the first note. Musical note when Lily goes to the park. She runs so fast and laughs so loud. Musical note. Her fingers twitched in mine. I sang through it. Even when my chest burned, Even when tears slid down onto the blanket. I sang because stopping felt like admitting something I wasn't ready to say out loud. When I finished, Lily sighed. "That's my favorite," she murmured. "I know, baby." She closed her eyes again. I stayed like that for a long time, counting breaths instead of minutes. The nurses came and went quietly. One of them, Sarah, who had been with us since the beginning, squeezed my shoulder gently as she passed. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I ignored it. 5 minutes later, it buzzed again. I didn't even glance at it this time. I knew it wasn't important. Nothing was important anymore. Except this. Except her. Except the fact that every breath felt like it might be the last. Another buzz. Then another. Lily's eyes opened again, just a slit. "Mommy, it's okay," she whispered. "You can check." I hesitated. "Are you sure?" She nodded faintly. "I'm not scared." I pulled my phone out with shaking hands. 17 unread messages. All from my sister, Claire. That night, after Lily finally drifted into a deeper sleep, I left the room for the first time in hours and went down to the hospital cafeteria. It was nearly empty, the harsh fluorescent lights making everything look unreal. I bought a coffee I didn't drink and sat at a corner table. Then I called Claire. She answered on the first ring. "Hey," she said brightly. "I was starting to worry you were ignoring me." "I was with Lily," I said quietly. I know," she replied quickly. "But you can't shut the whole world out forever." I closed my eyes. "Claire," I said, "this isn't a good time." There was a pause. A short one. Impatient. "I just need 5 minutes," she said. "This is important to me." Everything was important to Claire. "What is it?" I asked. "My housewarming," she said. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I worked my ass off for this." I stared at the table, my fingers curling around the paper cup. "You know Lily is dying," I said. "I know," she replied quickly. "Of course I know. I'm not heartless." The word landed wrong. "But," she continued, "life doesn't stop, you know? And honestly, I think a party might be good for you. A distraction." "A distraction," I repeated. "You've been so focused on Lily," she said gently, like she was explaining something to a child. "You've lost yourself." My voice shook. "I'm losing my daughter." "Yes, and that's awful," Claire said. "But you can't expect everyone to put their lives on hold indefinitely." There it was. The thing she really meant. "What date did you say?" I asked. "June 18th, she said brightly. "Isn't it perfect?" "That's when Lily might." My voice broke. Silence. Then Claire sighed. The kind of sigh that carried annoyance, not empathy. "Well," she said carefully, "if something happens, we can work around it." I felt cold. "You mean the funeral?" I said. "I mean logistics," she replied. "I've already paid deposits. Caterers, rentals, everything. It would cost me thousands to move it. I might be burying my child," I said. "I know this is emotional for you," Claire said, her tone shifting, becoming firmer. "But you're not thinking clearly." Something cracked inside me. "Are you asking me to change my daughter's funeral date?" I asked. She hesitated. "Funerals are flexible." I laughed. A sharp, broken sound. "My daughter will be in a morgue refrigerator," I said. "And you're worried about string lights." "Don't be dramatic," she snapped. "I'm just saying there are options." I stood up so abruptly my chair scraped loudly across the floor. "This conversation is over," I said. "Don't do this," Claire warned. "You're being selfish." I hung up. Lily died 3 days later, just after sunrise. The light through the window was pale and soft, like the world was trying not to intrude. I was holding her hand. She opened her eyes once more, looked at me, and smiled. "I love you, Mommy," she whispered. "I love you forever," I said. Then her chest stilled. The monitor screamed. Nurses rushed in. Someone pulled me back gently as they worked, but it was already too late. My world ended in a room that smelled like antiseptic and broken promises. The funeral was scheduled for June 18th, the first available date. I called my parents that night. "The funeral is on the 18th, I said flatly. There was a pause. "Oh," my mother said slowly. "That's the same day as Claire's party." I closed my eyes. I know. Well, she said carefully. I'm sure Claire will understand. I waited. She didn't say she'd cancel. She didn't say they'd be there. She said, let us talk it over. That night, my phone rang again. Claire. I've been thinking, she said. And I really can't move the party. I said nothing. It would be such a waste, she continued. And honestly, Lily wouldn't want everyone to be sad. That was the moment something inside me died too. The worst part wasn't the screaming. It was the quiet afterward. The hospital room felt too large once Lily was gone. Like the walls had moved back out of respect, giving my grief more space to expand. Her bed was still warm when the nurse helped me sit down. Her stuffed rabbit lay on its side near the pillow, one ear bent the wrong way. I fixed it. I don't know why. Maybe because fixing small things felt easier than accepting the one thing I couldn't fix at all. A social worker came in with paperwork. Words floated past me. Arrangements, next steps, resources. I nodded at the right moments without absorbing any of it. I had buried people before. As a nurse, death wasn't new to me. But this wasn't death. This was amputation. Someone had cut my future away and expected me to stand upright afterward. I didn't leave the hospital that day. Or the next. I slept on a vinyl chair that smelled faintly of disinfectant and old coffee. Nurses who had cared for Lily brought me food I couldn't eat, and spoke to me in soft voices that cracked when they thought I wasn't listening. Julia came. She was the charge nurse on the pediatric floor. Tall, dark-haired, sharp-eyed, and endlessly kind in the quiet, practical way that mattered. She didn't try to hug me or offer words that would bounce off the hollow place in my chest. She just sat. They chose the 18th, I said finally, staring at the wall. Julia didn't need clarification. She already knew. Your sister's party, she said. I nodded. My parents too. Julia's jaw tightened. I don't understand people like that. I do, I said. I always have. I just didn't want to believe it. The funeral home was quiet, carpeted in a way that felt deliberately muffled, as if grief itself was something they didn't want echoing too loudly. The director spoke to me gently, like I might break if he raised his voice. We can do Friday, June 18th, he said. Morning service. That's fine, I replied. He hesitated. Some families prefer to wait. Gives people time to. No, I said. I don't want to wait. I didn't say what I was really thinking. I didn't want Lily alone any longer than she already was. When I told him her age, his face shifted in that way people don't realize they do. A tiny flinch. A micro-expression of horror quickly masked by professionalism. So young, he murmured. Yes, I said. He cleared his throat and slid paperwork across the desk. And who should we expect to attend? I thought of my parents' house in Arizona. Of my sister's pool, string lights already ordered, wine glasses waiting to be filled. My friends, I said. Some co-workers. He nodded, understanding more than I'd said. My mother called 2 nights later. I let it ring until voicemail. Then my father. Then my sister. By the 3rd round I answered. Mira. My mother said, her voice thick. We need to talk. About what? I asked. This rift, she said. This tension. Tension, I repeated. Yes, she said. We're all hurting. I laughed quietly. No, we're not. She sighed. We don't want this to turn into something ugly. It already has, I said. We just think you're being inflexible, my father added, his voice cutting in. There has to be compromise. There's no compromise with a dead child, I said. Silence. Then my mother spoke again, careful. Claire has invested a lot into this. I closed my eyes. You're choosing her party over Lily's funeral, I said. We're not choosing, my father insisted. We're trying to make the best of a bad situation. No, I said softly. You're choosing. You just don't want to say it out loud. My mother's voice hardened. You're being unfair. Unfair. I whispered. I'm burying my daughter. She's gone, my father said. And we're heartbroken. But Claire is still here. Her life is still moving forward. Something in my chest went very still. So you're going to the party, I said. A pause. Yes, my mother said quietly. That was it. The moment the last thread snapped. Don't come to the funeral, I said calmly. I don't want you there. Mira, my mother began. I mean it, I said. If you choose her celebration, you don't get to stand by my daughter's grave pretending you didn't. I hung up before they could respond. The funeral was small. Painfully small. Lily's father flew in from Seattle. We hadn't been together since she was 1, but he loved her in his own broken way. He stood beside me, eyes red, shoulders shaking, saying nothing. Julia came. So did 3 nurses, Lily's preschool teacher, and 2 neighbors who barely knew us but came anyway because kindness sometimes shows up from strangers when family doesn't. The casket was white. Too small. I stood in front of it and read the words I had written at 3 in the morning, hands trembling. I talked about Lily's laugh, her stubbornness, how she once tried to convince a nurse that stickers were valid currency, how she sang to her stuffed animals when she thought no one was listening. I did not mention my parents. I did not mention my sister. I did not say where they were. Afterward, when the earth hit the casket with a sound I will never forget, I felt something inside me collapse completely. This wasn't grief anymore. This was clarity. That evening, I went home alone. Lily's shoes were still by the door. Her drawings still taped to the fridge. Her toothbrush still damp from the last time I had brushed her teeth while she was too weak to lift her arms. I sat on the floor of her room and opened my laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I opened social media. Claire's page was filled with photos. Her party. Her smiling face. My parents raising glasses beside her. A caption caught my eye. Nothing is more important than family. The timestamp was 2:14 p.m. That was when I had been standing beside my daughter's grave. Something cold settled into my chest. Not anger. Not sadness. Resolve. They thought this was a misunderstanding. A scheduling conflict. They thought I would forgive them eventually because I always did. They forgot something important. I was a nurse. I paid attention. I noticed patterns. I knew how systems worked. And I had nothing left to lose. I closed the laptop. For the first time since Lily died, I felt something close to purpose. Grief changes shape when it's done screaming. It settles. It sharpens. It teaches you how to breathe again. But differently, like someone who's learned the air can disappear at any moment. The morning after the funeral, I woke up before sunrise. For a split second, there was that familiar, cruel instinct to listen for Lily's breathing through the baby monitor. Then I remembered. The house was silent in a way that felt deliberate, as if it knew better than to make noise. I made coffee I didn't taste and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, the glow of the screen reflecting off the empty chair across from me. Lily used to sit there, feet swinging, demanding dinosaur-shaped pancakes and exactly 2 strawberries, never 3. I opened a folder I hadn't touched in years. Family. Inside it were documents I'd once organized out of habit. Shared accounts, emails, property records, old messages. When my parents helped me during Lily's early treatments, they insisted on handling some finances to make things easier. At the time, I'd been grateful. Now gratitude tasted bitter. I wasn't looking for revenge. Not yet. I was looking for understanding. And understanding always began with facts. Claire's life from the outside looked perfect. Successful real estate agent. Newly purchased dream home. Supportive parents. A carefully curated image of confidence and independence. But I knew my sister. I knew how much help she accepted while pretending she hadn't. I pulled up her public listings first. Just curiosity, I told myself. Then I cross-checked them with records from our parents' trust. Then old emails. Then texts. Patterns emerged quietly, the way they always do when you stop rushing. Down payments that didn't match her income at the time. Gifts that were never labeled as such. Loans that were quietly forgiven. My parents hadn't just supported her. They'd propped her up. And they'd done it while telling me, repeatedly, that money was tight. When I asked about help with Lily's experimental treatments, my chest tightened, not with rage but with something colder. Truth. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. This wasn't about punishing them. This was about letting them be seen. Julia called around noon. I was thinking about you, she said. How are you holding up? I'm functioning, he replied honestly. That's a start, she said. Then hesitated. Listen, there's something you should know. I straightened slightly. What is it? Claire was here yesterday, Julia said. At the hospital. The words echoed. She came by administration, Julia continued. Said she wanted to clear the air and make a donation in Lily's name. For publicity, I think. She asked questions about you. My jaw tightened. What kind of questions? About your mental state, Julia said quietly. Whether you were coping well. Whether you had support. I felt something twist in my stomach. She was laying groundwork, I said. Yes, Julia replied. That's what worried me. I stared out the window, watching sunlight spill across the empty backyard. Thank you for telling me, I said. Be careful, Julia added. People who need to control the story don't like losing it. After the call ended, I didn't move for a long time. Claire wasn't just avoiding guilt. She was protecting herself. And that meant she was afraid of something. 3 days later, my mother sent a text. We should talk. This distance isn't healthy. I didn't respond. My father emailed. Family forgiveness is important. Holding on to anger only hurts you. I archived it. Then Claire sent a message. I know you're hurting, but posting nothing and ignoring us makes it look like something's wrong. People are asking questions. I smiled for the first time in weeks. People were asking questions. Good. I opened my social media app and scrolled through Claire's feed again. New photos. New captions. New comments praising her strength, her grace, her supportive family. I clicked on one comment, from a woman I recognized as a mutual friend. So sorry about your niece. Sending love to you and your parents. Claire had liked it. Not corrected it. Not mentioned the funeral. Not acknowledged where she had been. I took a screenshot. Then another. Then several more. I wasn't collecting ammunition. I was documenting reality. There's a difference. The letter came in the mail the following week. Cream-colored envelope. My parents' handwriting. Inside was a carefully worded message about healing, moving forward, and not letting one tragic event destroy the family. Enclosed was a check. $5,000. My hands shook as I stared at it. $5,000. Less than what Claire had spent on catering alone. I laughed, a sound that startled even me. They hadn't sent flowers. They hadn't come to the funeral. But they had sent money. As if that could balance the scales. I folded the letter, placed the check back inside the envelope, and wrote return to sender across the front. Then I sat at Lily's desk and opened her old pink notebook. On the first page, in uneven crayon letters, she had written, Mommy is brave. I swallowed hard. Okay, baby, I whispered. Let's be brave. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront them. I wasn't going to beg for understanding. I was going to tell the truth. Quietly, carefully, publicly. Not with accusations. With timelines, dates, screenshots, absences that spoke louder than words. People didn't need to be convinced. They just needed to see. I opened a blank document and titled it, June 18th. I began to write. I posted it at 6:03 a.m. No caption. No hashtags. No commentary. Just the document. June 18th. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't accuse anyone. I didn't explain myself. I let the timeline speak. The post opened with a single sentence. On June 18th, at 2:14 p.m., my daughter was lowered into the ground. Below it were timestamps. Hospital discharge papers. Funeral service confirmation. A photo of Lily's tiny white casket, blurred just enough to protect her dignity. Then came the screenshots. My sister's party photos, smiles, champagne, string lights glowing against a perfect blue sky. The caption she'd written. Nothing is more important than family. Underneath, one final line from me. This is what family meant to them. That was it. No anger. No insults. Just truth. For the first 10 minutes, nothing happened. I stared at the screen, hands steady, heart calm in a way that surprised me. Then the notifications started. One like. Then 3. Then comments. People I hadn't spoken to in years. Coworkers. Old classmates. Neighbors. Oh my God. Is this real? I don't even know what to say. Then someone shared it. Then another. By 6:27 a.m., my phone was vibrating nonstop. I turned it face down and made tea. Lily used to like watching the steam curl upward. She called it clouds that got lost. I watched it rise now and felt strangely peaceful. My mother called at 6:41. I didn't answer. My father called at 6:43. Then Claire. Then both of them again. Texts poured in. Take this down right now. You're humiliating us. This is private family business. You're twisting things. I read none of it. At 7:12 a.m., Claire left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking, not with grief, but with panic. Mira, what are you doing? She hissed. Do you have any idea what this is doing to me? My clients are calling. My broker called. People are asking questions you don't understand. I smiled faintly. She was wrong. I understood perfectly. By mid-morning, the comments had shifted. People weren't asking me questions anymore. They were asking them. Under Claire's photos. Under my parents' posts. Publicly. Politely. Relentlessly. Were you really at a party during your niece's funeral? Why didn't you attend? Is this true? Claire deleted comments. Then entire posts. My mother made her profile private. My father posted a vague message about misinformation and family disputes. It didn't matter. Screenshots travel faster than damage control. Julia texted me around noon. Julia, I just saw it. Julia, you didn't exaggerate a thing. Julia, administration asked me if they could share the post internally as an example of patient advocacy. I stared at the message. Patient advocacy. Lily still teaching people things. Me, she always mattered. Julia, she still does. At 1:58 p.m., Claire showed up at my door. I knew it was her before I even looked. She knocked the way she always did. Hard, entitled, expecting an answer. I opened the door calmly. She looked different. Her hair was pulled back hastily. Her makeup uneven. Her eyes wild in a way I'd never seen before. Take it down, she demanded. Now. No, I said. You don't get to do this to me, she snapped. You're ruining my life. I tilted my head. You did that on June 18th. Her face flushed. That's not fair. Neither is burying a child alone, I replied. She opened her mouth then closed it. For a second, just a second, I thought she might apologize. Instead, she said, you should have told people you didn't want us there. I laughed softly. I did, I said. You chose the party. She stepped closer. This post makes it look like we didn't care. You didn't, I said. Her eyes filled with tears, not for Lily, but for herself. I was scared, she whispered. I didn't know how to deal with it. So you didn't, I said. You delegated grief to me. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. Leave, I said. She hesitated. Mom and Dad. Leave. I repeated. She left. That evening, my parents sent a joint message. We acknowledge mistakes were made. We regret how things were handled. I didn't reply, because regret without accountability is just another performance. That night, I added one more comment to my post. Pinned. Lily loved ducks, pancakes shaped like stars, and singing badly in the car. She deserved people who showed up. Then I closed the app. The truth was out. And it was breathing on its own now. Consequences don't announce themselves. They don't arrive with fireworks or dramatic music. They slip in quietly, wearing the faces of phone calls that go unanswered and invitations that never come. 3 days after the post, the first door closed. It was Claire's broker. I didn't hear the call, but I heard about it. A mutual friend texted me. I don't want to add stress, but I thought you should know. Claire's brokerage removed her featured listings. They're reviewing her public image. I stared at the message for a long time. Public image. That's what it always came down to for Claire. She built her career on trust, on being seen as warm, family-oriented, dependable. The kind of agent you'd trust with your biggest investment. People didn't want to buy houses from someone who treated a child's funeral like an inconvenience. I didn't feel happy. I felt settled. My parents were next. Not publicly. Privately. Church friends stopped calling. Dinner invitations dried up. My mother left me a voicemail late one night, voice shaking. "We didn't realize how many people knew," she said. "Everyone's asking questions. It's humiliating." I deleted the message. Humiliation wasn't what they were feeling. It was accountability. I went back to work the following week. The pediatric floor hadn't changed, but I had. Parents recognized me from the post. Some hugged me without asking. Some just nodded, eyes soft with understanding. One mother pressed a folded note into my hand before leaving. Inside it said, "Thank you for saying what so many of us are afraid to." I kept it in my pocket all day. Claire tried again. This time she sent an email. Long, carefully written. Polished. She apologized for being overwhelmed, for handling things poorly, for unintended hurt. She never apologized for choosing the party. She asked if I would consider posting a follow-up. Something about forgiveness, healing, moving forward. Something to balance the narrative. I replied with one sentence. "I won't lie to make you comfortable." Then I blocked her. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived from her brokerage. Not to me. To Lily. They were starting a small pediatric cancer fund in her name. They wanted my permission to use her story. I read it twice. Then a third time. This wasn't damage control. This was them trying to course correct. I said yes. But with conditions. No mention of Claire. No espin. Just Lily. They agreed. The last door closed quietly. My parents sent one final message. "If you ever want to talk, we're here." I looked at it for a long time. Then I replied. "You were here when it mattered least." I didn't block them. I didn't need to. Some distances create themselves. One evening, months later, I went back to the park. The one with the ducks. I brought a small bag of feed and sat on the bench Lily loved. The ducks came immediately, loud and greedy and alive. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time since she died. "Look," I whispered. They still remember. The sun dipped low, painting the water gold. I realized something then. This wasn't revenge. This was release. The truth hadn't destroyed my family. It had revealed it. And in the space where they used to be, something quieter and stronger had begun to grow. Time didn't heal. It rearranged. The sharp edges of grief dulled. But the weight stayed, settling into my bones, into the way I woke up every morning expecting something to be missing. Because something always was. Lily's room remained untouched for months. Not out of denial, but out of respect. It felt wrong to move her things before I understood what they meant without her in them. One afternoon, I finally opened her closet. Her jacket still hung at child height. Her rain boots, purple, always worn on the wrong feet, sat by the wall. Inside the pocket of her winter coat, I found a crumpled piece of paper. A drawing. Stick figures. One tall, one small. A duck between us. At the top, written carefully, "Me and Mommy forever." I sat on the floor and cried until my chest hurt. But it wasn't the breaking kind of cry. It was the kind that lets something breathe. The foundation launch happened in early fall. It was small. No press. No speeches. Just a room full of parents who knew the sound of hospital machines the way other people knew lullabies. The sign read, "The Lily Project. Small comforts for brave children. Blankets. Toys. Parking vouchers. Food cards. The little things people forget matter, until they matter most." I stood in the back and watched a mother accept a care package with shaking hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't know how much this helps." I did. Claire tried once more. A handwritten letter this time. She said losing Lily had changed her perspective. That she was in therapy. That she wanted to rebuild. She ended with, "I miss my sister." I folded the letter carefully and placed it in Lily's memory box. Not as forgiveness. As acknowledgement. Some things don't need answers. My parents sent nothing. No letters. No calls. I heard through others that they'd stopped attending church. That my mother avoided social events. That my father had grown quieter. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt acceptance. They had chosen their version of family. I had chosen mine. One night, I dreamed of Lily. She was older, healthy, running. She turned back once, smiled, and said, "You did good, Mommy." I woke up with tears on my pillow and peace in my chest. On the anniversary of her death, I went to the park again. This time, other parents were there, people I'd met through the foundation. Their children fed ducks and laughed and shouted and lived. I sat on the same bench and closed my eyes. The world moved. And for the first time, I moved with it. The post stayed up. I never deleted it. Not as punishment. As record. Because stories like Lily's don't disappear when we're quiet. They disappear when we let them. I wouldn't. Grief doesn't end. It changes address. It moves from your chest into your habits, your silences, the way you notice small things other people rush past. A year after Lily died, I stopped measuring time by dates. I measured it by moments. The first time I walked past her school without stopping. The first time I laughed without guilt. The first time I heard a child sing off-key and didn't immediately cry. Those moments didn't mean I loved her less. They meant I was carrying her better. The Lily Project grew quietly. No billboards. No speeches. Just word of mouth between parents sitting in hospital hallways at 2 in the morning. Sharing stories no one else wanted to hear. A nurse once told me, "Your daughter changed the atmosphere here." I smiled. "She always did," I said. I never spoke to Claire again. Not because I hated her, but because I finally understood her. She loved comfort more than courage. And love that disappears when things get hard isn't love, it's convenience. Sometimes people don't betray you out of cruelty. They betray you because they don't want to feel uncomfortable. As for my parents, years passed without reconciliation. I heard rumors. Apologies filtered through relatives. Invitations extended when I was ready. I never answered. Some bridges don't burn. They erode. And rebuilding them would require pretending the collapse didn't matter. It did. On Lily's birthday, I baked pancakes shaped like stars. I gave them away at the hospital, one plate at a time. A little boy looked up at me and said, "These are magic." I nodded. They are. That night, I sat alone on my porch, watching the sky darken. I thought about June 18th. Not with anger. With clarity. That day taught me something most people never learn until it's too late. Love is not what people say when things are easy. It's where they show up when it hurts. Some people chose music and laughter. I chose my daughter. I'd make the same choice in every lifetime. Before I went inside, I whispered into the quiet. "You were never alone, Lily." Not once. The wind moved through the trees. Soft. Certain. Like an answer. Some families inherit blood. Others are built from truth. I know which one my daughter would have chosen.